Alright students, so today we are going to be looking at altering concentration of existing concentration. So you may be given a formula and you are requested to change that formula to either a double strength or a quarter strength or a half strength. And you will have to know certain fundamental principles in order to do so. Another way of altering a concentration is if you have an existing formulation now and you want to change that formulation to a higher concentration by adding more active ingredients to that existing formulation. And that is what we call fortification. So we're going to be looking at those two. So we have here an example that we want to demonstrate changing or altering the concentration of an existing formula. So we're given an example of Whitfield's ointment single strength, and we're asked to prepare or show calculations to prepare a double strength formulation. So this is the formulation for the Whitfield's ointment single strength. So this is a single strength ointment, okay? So this means that you're going to have to identify what the active ingredients are. So this is single strength. And we have to identify the ingredients in the formula. Now, an ointment has two things. It has a base and it normally has an active ingredient. The active ingredients are the benzoic acid and salicylic acid. And the base would have been the emulsifying ointment. So these are the active pharmaceutical ingredients. So the proportion of active ingredients in this formula would have been 9 parts or 9%. Therefore, the amount of base that would be in the formula would have been 91%. And this is for your single strength. But if you are going to increase the single strength to a double strength, then it means that you have to double something. Now you might be saying, oh, that's easy. Let's just double everything. Let's multiply 91% by 2, 6% by 2, and 3% by 2. If you thought that, that would have been wrong, because if you're doubling everything in the formula, you're going to end up with the same formula, the same single strength. Your aim is to double the active ingredients. That means you're going to double 6% by 2 and 3% by 2. So whatever the final doubling amount will be, you're going to have to make some adjustment to the base to accommodate the increase in the active ingredients in the formula. Right? So whatever you double the active ingredients by, that is what you're going to reduce the base by. And similarly, if it is that you're going to reduce the active ingredients, say the doctor didn't want a single strength, but they wanted a half strength, it means that you're going to have to decrease the active ingredients by half. It means then that the base is now going to have to be adjusted to accommodate the reduction of these active ingredients. So that means the base is going to increase. So the principle of the thing is, one, you need to identify what's the active and what's the base. Second, you need to identify what proportion each of these ingredients fall in the formula. Third, you decide what you need to double or triple or half or alter, in other words. Once you have altered those active ingredients, you're now going to have to alter the base by that same amount. Okay? So let's continue. So we know that we are going to have to double the active ingredients. So the benzoic acid is going to be increased to 12, and the salicylic acid is now going to be increased to 6. So the total amount of active ingredients is now going to move from 9 to 18. And just recall that the single strength, these are the proportion or the parts of each ingredient in the formula. So, but it's going to look different now when we have the double strength. So this is now your double strength. So remember, for this, you multiply this by 2 and you multiply this by 2 to get the 6% and 12. And this is now going to be 18%.
Okay, so students, because the active ingredients now have increased to 18% of the formula, it means then that the base is now going to decrease by 9%, right? So the active ingredients is increasing by 9%. That means you had 9% before, now you're doubling it, so you're adding 9% more of the active ingredient. So that means the base needs to be decreased by 9%. Okay, so to determine the amount of base that will be in this new formula, this double strength formula, you subtract the 18% from the 100%, which represents the entire formulation, to get 82%. So when we now are calculating, we can use ratio and proportion to determine the amounts of each ingredient. So for benzoic acid, 12, since we are calculating for 30 grams of product, because we know 12 grams are now in 100 grams of the product, therefore the amount in 30 grams can be easily determined. That's 3.6 grams. Similarly, for salicylic acid, 6 grams are now in 100 grams. Therefore, how much would be in 30? We found that to be 1.8. So determine the amount of emulsifying ointment. You add the 3.6 and the 1.8, subtract that from 30, and you get 24.6. You can also say 82 over 100 times 30 to give you the same 24.6. Either way is correct. So your new formula for the double strength would be emulsifying ointment 24.6 grams, benzoic acid 3.6 grams, and salicylic acid 1.8 grams. Another way of writing this would be to say emulsifying ointment QS 30 grams, and of course benzoic acid would be 3.6 grams, and salicylic acid would be 1.8 grams. Either way would have been correct, because you would have been making up to weight with base to make 30 grams. But because we're going to be weighing each individual ingredient separately, writing the exact amount of emulsifying ointment or writing the exact amount of base is preferred. But not to say that this alternative way of writing is incorrect. Now, we have learned how to make adjustment to the base when we are making the adjustment to the active ingredients, whether we're going to double it or whether we're going to increase it or reduce it. In this case, we doubled it. But oftentimes the base can be made up of more than one ingredient. And this formulation with Fields Ointment BP consists now of a base that contains 2 ingredients: emulsifying ointment at 51% and white soft paraffin at 40%. The base is still 91%, because this is the single strength, but the only difference is that this 91% is going to consist of 2 ingredients rather than 1. So each ingredient makes up the base at a certain proportion, as we see here. So that 91% is going to contain 51% of emulsifying ointment and 40% of white soft paraffin. Now you can't, when you calculate the same way that we did previously, but you can't just say, okay, since it's 2 ingredients, I'm going to just divide it equally, and whatever the increase is, I equally share it between these 2 ingredients. No, because each ingredient has a particular role in the formulation, and as such, you need to maintain those proportions. So let's see how we handle that. We already know that we're going to double the active ingredients, so 12% of benzoic acid and 6% of salicylic acid is going to result because we're multiplying these by 2. And so the resulting base is going to be reduced by 18%, and so, sorry, the base is going to be reduced by another 9%. So therefore, when we add the 2 ingredients in the formula, subtract it from the whole, we get 82%, right? So 82% will represent the base. But this 82% still has 2 ingredients, and those 2 ingredients must be in the proportion of 51 parts out of 51 parts and 40 parts. How do we work with this? It's quite simple, really. We refer to the single strength, and the single strength says that of the 91 parts of base, 51 parts would be emulsifying ointment and 40 parts will be white soft paraffin. Now you have base that is decreased to 82%, or you can say 82 grams. So in order to determine what proportion of that 82 grams or 82 parts will be emulsifying ointment. So therefore, 51 parts out of 91 parts, which is the current proportion that must be maintained no matter if you're increasing or decreasing the base, times 82% or 82 parts or 82 grams, whichever you prefer, will be 45.96% for emulsifying ointment. Similarly, 40 out of the 91 parts times the 82% or 82 grams or 82 parts, whichever you prefer, will be 36.04%. So in order to ensure that this is correct, we rewrite the formula for the double strength. So we rewrite it with the required amount of the active ingredient, 12% and 6%, and of course the percentages of the 2 ingredients in the base. We add these up. If we add it up and we get 100%, then we know we're on the right track. Generally speaking, most of our formulations end up with 100 parts. But there are times when there are some formulation that does not end up with 100 parts. It can end up with any number, depending on the type of formulation. So you need to look at the single strength and see what is there in terms of proportion or parts or percentages. And then when you adjust the formulation, you want to ensure that it ends up with 100 parts or 100%. That's how you know you're on the right track. So now we're going to calculate for 30 grams using ration proportion, similar to what we did the first time. 12 grams is in 100 grams of product. Therefore, how much would be in 30 grams? We got the 3.6 for benzoic acid. We got 1.8 for salicylic acid. And now for the emulsifying ointment, 45.96 grams are in 100. Therefore, how much is in 30? And we got that for white soft paraffin as well. So our new formula for the double strength will now be 13.79, 10.81 for white soft paraffin and emulsifying ointment, benzoic acid 3.6 and 1.8 for the salicylic acid. It went all the way over here. All right, and you want to ensure that when you add up all of these numbers, you get 30 grams. And that makes you know you are on the right track. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is how we are going to apply this knowledge. And now you're going to be getting some questions, and you're going to now apply this concept. The concept remains the same. You just need to make sure that you know whether you're increasing or decreasing the active ingredients. So, in summary, if you're increasing the active ingredient, your base must decrease to accommodate the increase of these active ingredients. However, if you're reducing or decreasing the active ingredient, then it means then that the base is going to have to increase to accommodate this decrease in the active ingredient in the formula. If your base consists of more than 1 ingredient, maintain the proportion of the base. So therefore, you need to look at the single strength or the existing formula that you're trying to adjust to see what the proportion of each ingredient will be in the base. All right. Thank you so much for your time and all the best.